Hi there, and welcome on the journey to transform culture. I'm Steve, and I'll be your guide. Well, folks, today let's just jump right into something about audits. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty details of an audit, but what I am going to do is suggest a couple things to those doing audits. And keep in mind, I don't even mean formal audits. It could be visits from leadership, especially for a multi-site organization. And whether it's the president, CEO, group leader, whatever, however you have your organization set up, you see times when leaders will telegraph, well, I'm going to be in town next Wednesday, and to visit your plant. And then the following Thursday, I'm going to be at this plant and that plant, and whatever it is. I use plants as an example, but it could be any site, store site, doesn't matter. Don't telegraph your visits. It really kind of defeats the purpose. First of all, you want to see the real way that your organization is running. And if you have satellite operations within your fold, you want to see what they're really, how their day to day actually is. So that when you show up, and this isn't to say, hey, it's a gotcha. It's not about a gotcha. It's about being and seeing the real, genuine way in which people are operating. And when correction needs to be made, being a human about making that correction, not destroying crushing their soul by pouncing all over them, but by saying, this is how I prefer these things occur, and making a note of that, right? Because the fact that folks realize that people, whether they be visitors or leadership in the organization, whatever it might be, show up and are seeing how they're operating, dealing with customers, all that. That mirror, that reflection within them will be enough to make them go, yeah, okay, we dropped the ball here or there or whatever, or this is a thing that we have that we're trying to fix. The other side of this coin is they'll be able to see some of the real problems that you have, because what often can happen is site leaders and others will kind of clean up their mess, so to speak, right? And it isn't to say you don't want to have your mess, and I don't mean mess, I mean work through and get problems put off to the side in a neat and tidy way, instead of dealing with them in the way that they would normally deal with them. And you want people to deal with things the way they normally deal with things, not to put on a show for the leader or for the group leader, president, CEO, whatever, however it works for your organization. You don't want the team to put on a show. It's not about the show. It's about, what do you do? When I used to play basketball back in the day, more so, and then coached later, but play how you practice, right? Practice how you play. That should be your normal operating mode. It's not always going to be pretty, and some CEOs and group and presidents and so forth, leaders, need to realize that it's kind of ugly when you're making, when you're in the back doing the ugly work. Sometimes it's an ugly process, and things that you got to go through can be ugly at times. Not all the time, but you need to understand that the reality is that there's some real struggles that people go through. Instead of having them put on a show and gently explain, this is what we got to deal with and this is what we're trying to do, which is great. You want people to be professional and forthright, but you want them to be real. I want to know what's really going on, and what are your struggles, and what are the problems that you have. And that isn't to say that every time you go visit someone that it's always a surprise. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that every time that you go shouldn't always be on a calendar, so that folks are either on vacation, out sick, the place is all completely, things are kind of put away, and the problems are swept under the rug, until after the leader leaves, and then they got to go through and dive into the ugly parts and deal with them. No, you want everybody to be on their operating in a genuine way. You want the team, you want to know that if the team is struggling, where and how are they struggling, and then be able to help mentor, guide, teach, train, et cetera, provide resources in some cases so that they can progress beyond the need to feel like they have to put on a show. You want to empower them to be able to problem solve and to have the resources that they need to do so. All right, folks. So just touching base a little bit on, visitation, and also as team members. Let me throw in there too that as team members, you should be operating the way you would for customers all the time, not just when, making it look good for anyone that comes to visit. And that doesn't mean you don't want to look good or, have your areas operating in a good way and everything in its place and that sort of thing. What it is saying, though, is when you're dealing with tough issues, deal with those tough issues. And it's okay to be seen dealing with tough issues because that's just life, right? All right, folks. Remember, uplift, motivate, inspire, encourage folks by hitting that good domino 3 to 5 times a day. And when you do that, you're transforming culture, but you're also transforming yourself. And that's an amazing thing. All right, hit like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, we'll talk to you later.